right, so what is what is or who is the third beast pursuing to Daniel chapter 7 verse 6? Just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of GMS. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. Now, what scriptures or precepts come to mind when looking up this precept? And today we're going to examine it. So we're going to start off by reading it. Daniel chapter 7 verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So who is this talking about? A lot of things have been mentioned in this precept. So pretty much the leopard is Alexander the Greek, and he is pretty much the one who united the Greeks. Okay, so the Greeks were pretty much the beginning of these Edomites coming into power, and they were being united at that time under Alexander. And you know what, man, what else do you think of when looking at this precept? You know what I think of? I think of Hellenization. I think of how the Greeks, on how they actually imposed their will upon the whole known world at that time, going into Hellenization. And it also makes me think of how we're still feeling the effects of Hellenization to this very day. Man, look at all these professional sports teams that you watch. That all goes back to Greek customs, man. Basketball, football, even the Olympics. That all goes back to Greek customs, right? Even these ideologies like democracy, that actually really goes back to the Greeks. But who perfected democracy? It was really the Romans. But democracy really goes back to the Greeks. They were actually practicing that before the Romans. So we're still feeling the effects of Hellenization, and that's what this precept shows me. Because when you go into secular history, you'll see it. So pretty much, man, this is all about Hellenization. And also the 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, is going into the 4 generals that were under Alexander the Greek, right? His close friends and generals. Those were his close friends, and they became generals. And he parted his kingdom and gave it to them to rule. So that's what this precept is going into. It's going into Alexander the Greek. It's going into the 4 generals, and it's going into Hellenization. Now, in order for you to also understand Hellenization, to understand the Greeks, to understand Alexander, to understand the 4 generals, you would also have to understand who Esau Edom is, because that's who the Greeks descend from. The Greek Caucasians are all descended from Esau Edom, and by default they are called the children of Edom. That's another name that they go by. They're really the children of Edom. And you also have to go into Genesis chapter 25 verses 21 through 34 to get a better understanding why the Bible labels them as red. And the reason for that is because of the complexion of their skin and how the blood shows forth in their skin. And also, while reading this, or when you read this, you pretty much gain an understanding of how they conquered the whole world at that time. And that actually goes back to their blessing, which is found in Genesis chapter 27 verses 38 through 40. The reason why they are able to bring forth Hellenization to the whole world is because of that blessing of the sword. and also how they were to what was it? Let me get that. I'm gonna get it. This is Genesis chapter 39. No, actually Genesis chapter 27 verse 38. Salakia. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. That's right, the fatness of the earth. They're going to live a life of luxury and opulence. They're going to live off the land. They're going to have all the resources. They're going to be rich. And that's how these devils live, man. Ever since they've came into power, that's how they're living. They got it like that, and they're living it up. Right? And look at these elites, man. They live in these big mansions. They own countries. They own people's souls. They own all the resources. Man, Elder Howard was going into it earlier today, man. Hey, man, these elites, man, they own everything in this damn city. They own all the properties. They own the construction. They own the buildings. They own everything, right? Now, verse 40, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Yeah, so, hey, and by thy sword shalt thou live. So that's going into weaponry. They're going to live by killing and murdering. Right? They live by the gun, they live by the sword. And that's how they get everything. They acquire everything by using the gun, by using the sword, by killing. How do you think he was able to come over here and conquer North America? How was he able to colonize? It's through the sword. It's not through peace, it's through the sword. So that's how he lives, that's how he gets down. And that's how they were able to conquer the known world back then. I'm talking about the Greeks. It's by the sword. Man, go into the accounts of how he took over Egypt. Well, how did he take over the Persian Empire? Because they were ruling, they're the ones that were in power before the Greeks. Right? How did he take them down? Man, he took what was his name? King Darius III's queen and children. Took them hostage, man. And then took his city. So he ruled by the sword. That's how he took everything, man, when you go into the account. All right, and the Greek Hellenization period started from between 333 BC to 134 BC. That's when it all took place. Right, and I believe it was 333 BC when Alexander the Creep defeats the Persians under Darius III. He captured the Persian queen and her children, man. And you know what this devil did, man? He refuses Darius's offer of a ransom and also the part of his kingdom, right? So, you know, this guy, he took over everything, man. He takes the city of Tyre after the siege. And he ended the Phoenician Empire, man. This guy did a lot of damage, man. He did it all with the sword. This guy was serious, man. So that's these devils. They rule by the sword. They rule by the sword. Okay, that's their blessing. So the fatness of the earth, the dew of heaven from above, and they rule with the sword. That's how they live. Okay. So yeah. Now let me get Genesis chapter 25 verse, I'm going to start at verse 25. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So that's why they're called the red people, right? The red people. So the first is talking about Esau, and he came out red all over like an hairy garment. And don't they take pride and calling themselves the hairy caveman, or they like to say, oh, I'm a Caucasian and I come out the cave and I'm very hairy. Well, that's who they are, man. All right, that's why you got the term Geico caveman, because he's a hairy beast. He's a hairy red beast, and that's exactly how he came out, fresh out the womb. like a red hairy beast, right? And they called his name Esau, which is Ishashua, wasted away is he, because he lacked pigment. He didn't have melanin. Verse 26. And after that came his brother out. Yeah, his brother came out normal. You notice they don't describe him. When you read on, they're not going to describe him as red or odd. Right? He just came out normal like every other baby. He had melanin. Right? And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob, Yaquab, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Alright, so these are the two brothers. And Jacob holding on to Esau's heel represents dominion, him getting over on Esau. And we're about to see that. Scripture that comes to mind is 2 Ezra chapter 6, verse 9. Well, actually, I'm going to start at verse 8. I'll read it. I pulled it up. I'm actually going to start at verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? So pretty much, he's asking here, when is the end, and when are we going to be delivered? When are we at the end? When are the end times coming? And what's the sign, man? Verse 8, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Yaquab's hand held first the heel of Esau. Right? So he's telling you the story which we just read. Look at this carefully. You see, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau going into the dominion, right? For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So there you go. So right now, we are at the end of Esau's world, because you Edomites, you came into power during the Renaissance period, which is going back into the 1400s, 1492. And the Renaissance means the rebirth. That dragon was resurrected. And its wound was healed. Okay, he came up. Right. Okay, so now we're at the end of that. 500 plus years later, we're at the end of your world, and we're seeing you going down. We're seeing you going down slowly. You're going down very, very slowly. We're at the end of your world. Everything is starting to fall apart. The curses are starting to come upon you. That goes back to Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 7. And Yaquab is the beginning of it that followeth. Did you see that? So Yaquab is the beginning of it that followeth. Okay, so he's the beginning. Okay, and that's going into when this place is destroyed, and us being beamed up into those ships, getting the kingdom of heaven, and that's when we're going to be over you. The hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand. Other question, Ezra, asked thou not. Okay, so that word world here is talking about eon, and that simply means an age or a period of time. And we're at the end of Esau's age, and we're headed into Jacob's age, the Jacobite age, the Israelites' age, and that's going to be an everlasting kingdom. Anyways, let's move on. We can get here. Let's go back here. Now I'm going to jump down a bit, because I'm going to go into how we got that name Edom. So I'm gonna go to Genesis chapter 25, verse 29. And Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom, and Edom means red. Right. It also goes right along with how he looks. Right. He is red by default. The blood shows forth through his skin, but it's because he was eating that raw meat, that raw food, and that's how you devils get down. You know, a lot of you devils, man, go on the internet. Go type out the carnivore diet. Who's doing that? You Edomites, man. You like your food raw. But that's how you got that name, Edom. And that's why you are called the Edomites. And you are the red people. You are the red people. And that really goes back to the mark of Cain. When you go back to Genesis chapter 4 and 12 on down, it goes back to the mark of Cain. And this actually is a hint of who, you know, you being called Esau, you being called Edom, and how the blood shows forth through your skins. That's also an indicator that you are the son of perdition, the mystery of iniquity. Right? That's another sign that you are the mystery of iniquity, which that has been revealed already. We know who you are because the prophecies have been fulfilled to expose you. Right? So we know who you are. Back then, we didn't know who you were while you were ruling and tearing shit up during the time of the Romans. But now we know who you are because prophecy has fulfilled and we see your track record. All the information is out there about who you are and how evil you are and how anti-Yahweh you really are as well. Alright, so that's all I want from here. So now we're going to go into 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1, and the point will be made in verse 9. Okay, and this is going into the four generals. So this is 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. So there you go. We spoke about that earlier, all right? And you have to go back into secular history. Go back the last battle between King Darius III versus Alexander the Greek. All right, I believe that was in 334 BC. That's when Alexander the Great begins his campaign against Persia and defeats Darius III at what was it? I think it was the river of Granicus and Anatolia, I believe. That was I think that was Asia Minor, I believe. Okay, and also I believe another last battle that he had was the battle of Gaugamela. All right, so there you go. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. That's right. You know, he conquered a lot of places. He invaded and conquered Egypt. That's where you get the foundation of Alexandria. Also, he seizes Babylon. He marries Roxana, which pretty goes back. It's a symbolic gesture of uniting the East and the West. Also, you had something called the Susa weddings that took place, right? So all of those things happened during his rule. Right? He actually invaded India. He took over so many lands, man, and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. Yeah, man. And he went throughout the whole earth. So he conquered the whole known world of that time. And nobody can come up against him. Nobody. All these other kings and peoples and different nations became tributaries unto him. Okay, he shut the world down. He had it on lock. This was a serious man. But it says here, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up, and he got very, very proud and wicked. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. So there you go, tributaries. which means they became his servants. These kings that he conquered, they started to minister unto him. And anybody that didn't want to become a tributary, they were killed, man. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Yeah, so he became sick because he can't rule forever. He had his time, and the Lord made him rule for about, 33 years? Yeah, 33 years. Well, he lived till age 33. And that was it. 33, that's a serious number. 33. 33 degrees. 33 degrees. But 33 is very serious. When you add that together, you get 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. That's the number of man. That's a very carnal number. And good for him, man. He died at 33. Good riddance. He did what he had to do. So all of this, man, that we read, it brought forth Hellenization to the world. And the whole world is still feeling the effects of Hellenization to this very day, man. It's not just North America. It's all these different countries, man. All these different countries. And it's to the point, man, even the other nations that came after, like the Romans, they actually took on some of the Greek customs, man. Those people are almost identical to the Greeks, right? Their culture is very similar in terms of the gods that they worship. For example, you have Bacchus and Dionysus. I believe Dionysus is the Greek way of saying Bacchus, and Bacchus is actually, let me look it up. Dionysus. I'll actually look up Bacchus. Let's look at that first. Bacchus. God. Yeah, I spelled it wrong. I forgot the H. Bacchus. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so in ancient Greek religion and myth, Dionysus is the god of winemaking. Okay. So that's Greek. That's a Greek way of saying it. I think Bacchus is the Roman way of saying it. So it's the same god. And they were so obsessed, man, with making these sculptures of themselves with their 2-inch rod and shit. Like, they're weird, man. They were weird people, too. They're very weird. Very nasty. And also, that's another thing that we're still... that this society still embraces. Gymnos, being naked, going to the gym, right? That was something that they practiced back then. Oh, even you Benjamites, you practice something called Bacchanal, which is going into Carabin. That all goes back to Bacchus. So everybody is still feeling the effects of Hellenization, man. Everybody is. So what we're reading here is going into that. Okay, so anyways, let's move on. Verse 6, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. There you go. And this is going into the 4 generals, right? The 4 generals. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. And pretty much it just got worse after that. They started to spread evils upon the earth. These damn Grecians. And that's very wicked. And America is a product of those evils. America is a product of that. Verse 10, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. And I believe this is the worst one, was Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. He was the worst. Son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So yeah, that Antiochus was evil, man. He was a demon, man. He was a damn demon. He was a demon, man. Right, he was a demon. Evil man. Yeah, he destroyed peace. He destroyed many by peace. I believe that's Daniel chapter 8 verse 25. You know, he never kept his word. He made all these treaties with these other nations, and then he always went back on his word and killed everybody, man. He was evil, sacrificing and doing all this wicked stuff in the temple, and bringing forth a new world order. Yo, this guy did it all, man. He was very wicked, very, very evil. Anyways, okay, so let's go into Daniel chapter 8 verse 20, and the point will be made in verse 21. And Daniel chapter 8, and this further proves and backs up what's being stated here in Daniel 7 and 6, just so you don't get lost. Daniel chapter 8 verse 20, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of the Media and Persia. And now it goes into the goat, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. That's right, so he's the first king, right? So there you go, man. The ram is Media and Persia. The rough goat is Alexander the Great, or the creep. Okay, so that's him. That's who it's talking about. He is Alexander the Creep, the goat. And what is the meaning of the acronym GOAT? Greatest of all time. And that's why they call him Alexander the Great. And he's remembered, man. They label this guy as a great man, but people forget, man. You shouldn't aspire to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. You should aspire to be the Lamb. And the Lamb really goes back to Yahushai and also his elect, which are which also Israel, but starting with the elect, and that's the lost sheep. You want to aspire to be the Lamb, the unblemished Lamb, and you also want to aspire to be a sheep, because that's who's gonna get the victory and the last laugh at the very end, not the greatest of all time. The accolades and everything that the greatest of all time accomplished will be wiped away when Yahushua returns. And why is that? Because the Lamb, which is Yahushua, he sacrificed himself to save Israel, and because of that, he inherits all things, and his people inherit all things. And also, the scripture says that you should make your body as a living sacrifice. Only a lamb is going to do that. A goat won't do that. A lamb will do that. You know, when you bring a goat to the slaughter, the goat is hollering. It's trying to run away from the knife. But if you were to put a lamb to the slaughter, it'll take that death peacefully. It'll take it very humbly, very, very humbly, man. So that's who you should aspire to be. You should aspire to be like the lamb, because the lamb is going to inherit all things due to its humility. You know. Anyway, that's just me talking, but I'm just thinking that way. But anyways, let's get another one. Let's get Daniel chapter 8, verse 5 here. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eye. Right, and this is right. So pretty much this is going into this represents the Greeks again, and this goes into it refers back to Daniel chapter 7 and 6. The leopard with wings, and the horn pretty much is Alexander the Greek, right? And pretty much it's going more into how Alexander took on the Medo-Persians and how he took them down, right? So this is all a reference to what's being read here in Daniel chapter 7 verse 6. So I'll just read it to finish up. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. Okay, very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones towards the 4 winds of heaven. Right, and that also goes into the 4 generals. Okay, 4 notable ones. That's going into the 4 generals. Right. So yeah, man. Okay. All right. So I hope that makes sense. But I hope I didn't jumble anything up for you. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So anyways, with that, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakaha Chadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well and that do teach well, and that I do learn this truth from. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. Kwam Yasha Allah, and Abba Babal. Shalom.